I knew this collision was inevitable. When my brother Dylan's wife discovered his 2-year affair with her sister, it detonated more than his marriage. It fractured the entire architecture of our family's power dynamics. As the founder and managing partner of Sterling Capital Partners, a venture firm I'd built from a studio apartment and ramen noodles into a $50 million portfolio, I'd become their personal treasury. The security system I'd installed after Dylan's last visit captured Victoria and Dylan crossing my threshold at precisely 9:43 a.m. I'd left the door unlocked because I knew they'd come. Dylan's desperate voicemail at 2 a.m. had been the opening shot. What they didn't know was that Judge Harrison, along with 2 family court judges and 2 FBI financial crimes agents, were already watching the live feed from their respective chambers, courtesy of my attorney's preemptive strike. Olivia, Victoria's voice carried through the house like a blade across glass. We need to discuss your brother's situation. I sat at my desk, heart hammering against my ribs, but hands steady as stone. The small red indicator on my laptop glowed with quiet confirmation. The stream was active, encrypted, and broadcasting to 5 separate secure servers. In my office, Mother. Come through. They burst in like they owned the place, which in their minds, they did. Dylan, disheveled in the same clothes he'd worn yesterday, reeking of expensive scotch and cheaper decisions. And Victoria, clutching her Hermes Birkin like a battle shield, the same bag I'd gifted her last Christmas, funded by the very success they now demanded I subsidize. Your brother requires $1.2 million for his divorce settlement, Victoria announced, no preamble, no pleasantries. You're going to provide it. I kept my voice level, remembering Rebecca's advice. Document everything, escalate nothing, let them bury themselves. No, I am not. Dylan made his choices. His divorce is his responsibility. She's trying to take everything, Dylan whined, collapsing into my visitor's chair like a marionette with cut strings. The house, the cars, the vacation property, even my retirement account. Because you cheated on her with her sister for 2 years, I reminded him, each word precise and cold. Chloe's attorney is being generous, offering a settlement at all. Victoria's face reddened, a flush creeping up her neck like poison ivy. That's not the point. Family helps family. I have helped. I pulled a manila folder from my desk drawer, its contents dog-eared from too much handling. I've given Dylan $425,000 over the past 5 years. Money I was told was for his startup, his mortgage, his daughter's education. Instead, he spent it on luxury vacations with his girlfriend in Tuscany. He bought her a Tesla Model X. He put a down payment on a condo in Miami. You're just jealous because he has a life and you don't, Victoria snapped, her composure cracking. All you do is work and count other people's money. You wouldn't know real family if it. The irony isn't lost on me, I interrupted, my voice cutting through her rant like a scalpel. My work and money are apparently terrible things until you need them to clean up Dylan's messes. My answer is no. I closed the folder with a soft snap that echoed in the tense silence. I'm not funding his divorce. Victoria stepped closer, her designer heels clicking a staccato rhythm on my hardwood floor. Each step was a threat, each click a countdown. You ungrateful brat. After everything we've sacrificed for you. What exactly have you sacrificed for me? I asked quietly, the question hanging in the air like smoke. When I started Sterling Capital, you told everyone I was having a delusional phase. When I closed my first $10 million fund, you whispered to relatives that I'd probably done something illegal. The only time you're proud of me is when you need to make a withdrawal. Dylan jumped up, his chair scraping backward. You think you're better than us just because you got lucky with some tech investments. Lucky? The laugh escaped before I could stop it, a bitter, hollow sound. I worked 90-hour weeks for a decade. I lived in a studio apartment where the shower leaked into the kitchen. I ate ramen so often I can still taste the MSG in my dreams. Meanwhile, you were buying sports cars with money you borrowed from me. Enough. Victoria's scream was perfectly captured by the 4K cameras mounted discreetly in the corners of the room. You will give your brother this money or you're no longer part of this family. Do you understand me? You will be dead to us. No. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Victoria's hand moved, a blur of motion I'd seen 1,000 times in childhood, but never directed at me. The slap cracked across my face with the sound of a breaking branch. Her rings, gifts from my bonuses, cut into my skin just below my cheekbone. The sting was immediate, a hot bloom of pain that radiated through my jaw. Dylan smirked, a slow, ugly expression. "You're giving him the money," Victoria hissed, her face inches from mine, spittle flying. "Or I'll tell everyone about your little secret from college." I touched my throbbing cheek, feeling the wetness of blood where her diamond solitaire had sliced the skin. "You mean how I worked 3 jobs to pay tuition after you and Dad embezzled my trust fund? Go ahead, Mother. Tell everyone. I'm sure the judges would love to hear that story." "Judges?" Dylan's smirk vanished. "What judges?" I turned my laptop around, the screen showing a split view, 3 judicial chambers and 2 FBI conference rooms, each with officials watching intently. In the corner of my screen, a recording indicator blinked with steady, damning consistency. "You've been broadcasting us?" Victoria's voice rose to a shriek that made the camera's audio meters spike. "No, Mother. You've been broadcasting yourselves." I pressed a key, and the audio from the stream filled my office, Judge Harrison's voice clear as a bell. "We've got enough for assault charges. Keep recording, Miss Sterling. Everything you just did and said was witnessed by the family court judges handling Dylan's divorce, including the physical assault, the attempted extortion, and your admission about the trust fund." I leaned back in my chair, the cold compress I'd prepared now pressed to my swelling cheek. "Oh, and Detective Martinez is waiting at the front door. I believe she has some questions about the fraudulent loans you co-signed using my identity." "You set us up," Dylan whispered, his face the color of old parchment. "No, brother dear. I just finally learned from last time." I pulled another folder from my desk. "Remember when you forged my signature on those SBA loans in 2019? I learned to keep redundant evidence. Multiple backups. Off-site servers." A sharp knock at the front door made them both jump. "Miss Sterling," a familiar voice called, "Detective Martinez from the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with your mother regarding wire fraud charges." The next few minutes were pure chaos. Victoria trying to escape through the back door where another officer waited. Dylan attempting to delete the recording from my laptop, his fingers clumsy with panic. Too late. The footage was already secured on 5 different servers, each in a different jurisdiction. As they were led away in separate cruisers, Victoria turned back one final time. "You've destroyed this family, Olivia." "No, Mother," I said softly, the words finally finding their truth. "You did that a long time ago. I'm just done paying for it." Detective Martinez stayed behind to take my statement, but we both knew it was a formality. The evidence was pristine, and 5 witnesses with absolute legal authority had seen everything. This time, there would be no covering up, no family secrets, no more financial abuse disguised as filial duty. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "Judges want to see you." Dylan's divorce just got a lot more interesting. I smiled, wincing at the pain in my cheek. Sometimes justice comes with a price. But finally, I wasn't the one paying it. The courthouse hallway felt colder than usual as I waited outside Judge Harrison's chambers. My cheek had blossomed into a purple bruise, but the satisfaction of finally standing my ground dulled the pain. Rebecca Santos, my attorney and the architect of today's takedown, reviewed her notes beside me. "All 3 judges and the FBI agents want to add your evidence to Dylan's divorce proceedings," she explained. "Your mother's assault has complicated things for them significantly." "How badly?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "They've uncovered a pattern of financial fraud," Rebecca continued, her voice low and urgent. "Dylan wasn't just cheating on Chloe. He was embezzling from their joint accounts, hiding assets in shell corporations, and draining the children's college funds. Your mother was the notary on half the forged documents." Before she could elaborate, Judge Harrison's clerk called us in. The chambers smelled of leather and authority. Judge Harrison sat behind his mahogany desk, while Judges Morrison and Petrov occupied leather armchairs. 2 FBI agents in suits, Special Agents Chin and Rodriguez, stood near the window, their faces grim. On the center screen, the video of Victoria's assault played silently in a loop. The moment her hand connected with my face seemed to repeat endlessly, a testament to her hubris. Miss Sterling, Judge Harrison began, his voice measured. We've reviewed not only today's incident, but also the financial documentation you provided. I have to ask, how long has this exploitation been occurring? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every year pressing down. Since I started Sterling Capital 8 years ago. At first, it was small amounts, $10,000 here, $20,000 there for what they called family emergencies. But after Dylan's affair became public, it escalated. They saw me as their personal bailout fund. Judge Morrison, the senior family court judge, interjected. We've seen the transfer records, Miss Sterling. For $0.3 million in total. Not counting the trust fund embezzlement your father orchestrated when you were a minor. Rebecca handed them another file, this one thick with bank statements and affidavits. We've also discovered that Victoria Sterling and Dylan Sterling used Olivia's personal information to obtain multiple loans and lines of credit. They created fake email accounts in her name to approve transactions. Agent Chin stepped forward. This goes beyond family court now, Miss Sterling. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is opening a RICO investigation. Your mother and brother appear to have engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity targeting family members. A cold clarity settled over me. Are you aware that Dylan listed me as a guarantor for all his marital debts in his divorce filings? I asked the judges. There's paperwork with my signature, though given what you've witnessed today, I'm questioning its authenticity. Judge Peterson's expression darkened. He claimed you had agreed to cover all his financial obligations. Signature analysis suggests forgery, but we wanted your confirmation. I never signed those documents, I stated firmly. And I never agreed to guarantee anything. They made me a financial hostage in my own life. Judge Harrison nodded slowly. We believed as much. Which is why we've already contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office. Given the assault and attempted extortion we witnessed, we're recommending immediate criminal charges. My phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. Fix this, or I'll tell them everything about your company. How you bribed officials for contracts. I showed the message to the judges. He's been trying to blackmail me with false allegations about my business practices. I have all his threats documented in a separate file. Agent Rodriguez made a note. We'll want to see those. Threatening a federal witness adds another charge. As we left the chambers, Rebecca squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing. They can't hurt you anymore. In the parking garage, I found my Tesla vandalized, Dylan's final act of retaliation before being taken into custody. The words, money-hungry bitch, were keyed deep into the driver's side door, the paint peeled back like a wound. Rebecca photographed the damage while I called the police. As we waited, another text came through. This time from Chloe, my former sister-in-law. Thank you for telling the truth, it read. I knew something wasn't right with their stories. You saved my children's future. For the first time that day, tears threatened. Not from pain or fear, but from relief. The truth was finally free, and with it, the weight of years began to lift. The detective who arrived to document the vandalism was younger than I'd expected. Her badge reading, Detective A. Martinez, a different Martinez from Financial Crimes. Family financial abuse cases are always the messiest, she said, her voice sympathetic as she photographed the damage. But you've done everything right. You kept records, you gathered evidence, and most importantly, you came forward. Most victims never do. Looking at my scarred car, I realized it was a fitting symbol. Like me, it bore the marks of their abuse, but it was still running, still moving forward. The scratches could be repaired, just like I could heal. What happens now? I asked Rebecca as we watched the police finish their report. Now, she said firmly, you live your life without their chains. And they face the consequences of their actions. I nodded, touching my bruised cheek one last time. The pain was already fading, and with it, the last traces of guilt about standing up to them. Sometimes protecting yourself means being willing to let go of those who hurt you, even if they share your blood. 1 year later, I sat in the federal courthouse, watching as Victoria and Dylan were led into the courtroom for sentencing. The past 12 months had revealed a web of financial crimes that shocked even the prosecutors. The FBI's investigation had uncovered over $6.8 million in fraudulent loans, forged documents, offshore accounts, and systematic identity theft. "All rise," the clerk announced as Judge Reeves entered. I straightened in my seat, feeling Chloe's supportive presence beside me. After the divorce revelations, Chloe had reached out. We discovered we'd both been victims of the Sterling family's financial machinations, and an unexpected friendship had formed from the ashes of their deception. Before I delivered the sentence, Judge Reeves began, his voice filling the solemn space. The victims would like to make their statements. I approached the podium, my statement trembling in my hands. Victoria and Dylan wouldn't meet my eyes. For years, I believed that family meant sacrificing everything for each other. I began, my voice clear and strong. I was taught that love meant giving until it hurt, then giving more. What I wasn't taught was the difference between support and exploitation. Taking a deep breath, I continued. My mother and brother didn't just steal my money. They stole my trust, my sense of safety, and years of my life. They turned every achievement into an obligation, every success into a debt. The physical assault that day in my office wasn't the first act of violence. It was just the first one caught on camera. The real violence was the years of financial and emotional abuse, the constant threats, the manipulation of my love and guilt. Victoria started crying, but I'd learned to recognize her tears for what they were, another manipulation tactic, performed for a new audience. The scar on my cheek has faded, I concluded, but the lessons remain. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is say no to those we love. Sometimes the truest form of family is the one we build after the one we were born into breaks. Chloe took her turn next, revealing how Dylan had systematically drained their daughter's college funds while convincing her she was simply bad with money. How Victoria had helped him forge her signature on mortgage documents. How they'd gaslit her into believing she was the irresponsible one. Judge Reeves listened intently before addressing the defendants. Victoria Sterling, Dylan Sterling, your actions demonstrate a calculated pattern of racketeering activity targeting your own family members. The court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy, with additional time for assault and extortion. As they were led away in handcuffs, Dylan finally looked at me. "Live, please. The girls need their father. They need their college funds more," I replied calmly. "Which is why I've already established new trust accounts for them. Ones you can't touch." Outside the courthouse, Chloe hugged me tightly. "It's really over." Almost, I smiled, though the expression felt strange after so much anger. "There's one more thing." The next day, I stood in front of a packed press conference announcing the launch of the Family Financial Abuse Prevention Foundation. Using recovered funds and a portion of Sterling Capital's profits, we provide legal support, forensic accounting, and safe housing for victims of familial financial exploitation. Rebecca, now the Foundation's general counsel, helped me cut the ribbon at our first office in downtown Manhattan. "You've turned your pain into purpose," she observed. "Pain teaches us what we need to learn," I replied. "I learned that real family doesn't demand your destruction. They celebrate your survival." The Foundation's first case came sooner than expected. A young entrepreneur named Priya, tears streaming down her face, showed me texts from her parents demanding she sell her successful startup to pay for her brother's gambling debts. "They say I owe them," she whispered. "That family sacrifices for family." I showed her Victoria's final text to me, sent from a burner phone the day before her arrest. A real daughter would have protected her family from shame. "No," I told Priya, my voice steady with conviction. "Real family protects each other from harm. They don't demand you harm yourself for them." 6 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from Victoria's prison counselor. She'd finally admitted her actions, recognizing the pattern of abuse she'd perpetuated for decades. She asked if I'd consider visiting. I wrote back a simple response. "When you can respect my boundaries as much as you want my forgiveness, we can talk. Until then, I wish you healing." Dylan's daughters visit me monthly now. We never discuss their father, but I make sure they understand healthy financial boundaries. Their new college funds are secure, and Chloe and I are teaching them that love doesn't come with a price tag or a guilt trip. Last week, I found an old family photo album in a storage unit. Looking at the pictures, vacations I paid for but wasn't invited on, birthday parties where my gifts were expected but my presence was barely tolerated, I realized something profound. The family I mourned never really existed. It was a facade maintained by my sacrifice and their bottomless entitlement. But from those ashes, something authentic has grown. Chloe and her girls, my foundation staff, friends who celebrate my boundaries instead of challenging them, a life built on truth instead of convenient lies. Standing in my office where it all ended, I finally archived Victoria's contact in my phone. The screen asked, "Are you sure you want to block this number?" It felt like the phone was asking about more than just a contact. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm sure. Sure that family shouldn't hurt. Sure that love shouldn't cost. Sure that I deserve peace. And most importantly, sure that I would never again confuse exploitation for affection." The scar on my cheek from Victoria's rings has faded to a faint silver line. But the lessons remain, etched deeper than any physical wound. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is say no to those who claim to love us most. Sometimes the highest form of self-love is protecting ourselves from the people who taught us that love meant surrender. And sometimes, just sometimes, the family we build from the ashes of the one that burned us is the only family that can teach us what love really means. The Foundation's second anniversary gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum. As I stood at the podium, looking out at a sea of survivors and allies, I saw Priya in the front row, her startup now valued at $40 million, her parents' threats nothing but a distant memory. I saw Chloe's daughters, both thriving in college, their futures secure. I saw Rebecca, now a partner at her firm, representing victims pro bono. 2 years ago, I began, my voice carrying through the hall. A woman stood in her office and said no. She said no to paying for her brother's betrayal. She said no to her mother's violence. She said no to a lifetime of financial servitude disguised as family obligation. I touched the faint scar on my cheek, now barely visible under makeup. That no cost her everything she thought mattered. But it gave her something infinitely more valuable, the truth. The truth that family isn't about shared DNA. It's about shared integrity, shared respect, and shared commitment to never let another soul pay for your mistakes. The applause rolled over me like a wave, but I was already thinking about tomorrow, about the next case, the next survivor, the next person learning that no is a complete sentence. In the audience, a young woman sat alone, her hands clutching a program. I recognized the look in her eyes, the same look I'd seen in my reflection 2 years ago. The look of someone who knows the price of saying yes and is terrified of the cost of saying no. After the speeches, I made my way to her table. "Hi, I'm Olivia." "Maya," she whispered. "Would you like to talk?" She nodded, tears already falling. "My parents say I owe them my entire salary. They say family means sharing everything. But I looked at your foundation's website and I think they're wrong." I handed her my card, the foundation's hotline number embossed in gold. "They're wrong. And we're going to help you prove it." As Maya walked away, clutching the card like a lifeline, I felt the full circle closing. The girl who'd been told she was imagining things, the woman who'd been slapped for refusing to fund her brother's mistakes, the survivor who'd broadcast her own assault to find justice. She'd become the person she'd needed when she was Maya's age. And that, I realized, was the truest form of revenge. Not punishment, but prevention. Not destruction, but creation. Not surviving, but ensuring others never had to walk that same dark path. The Foundation's hotline rang 24/7 now, staffed by survivors who understood that the most dangerous words in any language are, "but their family." We answered every call, validated every fear, documented every threat. We'd helped 347 people file restraining orders, recover $8.9 million in stolen assets, and find safe housing away from toxic relatives. But the number that mattered most was one, the one person who learns that their no is powerful enough to stop a cycle of abuse. That night, as I locked up the Foundation's offices, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you. I said no. They threatened me. I called your hotline. They're helping me. I couldn't have done it without seeing your story. I saved the message, adding it to a folder labeled Why. On the hard days, when the memories felt too heavy and the scar ached, I read those messages. They remind me that pain isn't meaningless if it prevents someone else's. Victoria and Dylan are eligible for parole in 8 years. I've already written my victim impact statement for the hearing. It will be the same 4 words I texted back to Maya. Your no is enough. Because it is. It always was. I just needed 5 judges, 2 FBI agents, a bruised cheek, and a shattered family to teach me that the most powerful word in the world isn't yes, or please, or sorry. It's no. And it's always been mine to say. The foundation's lights glowed behind me as I walked to my car, a new Tesla, paid for with clean money, registered in my name alone. The old one with the keyed paint had been donated to a women's shelter, its scars a testament to survival. I drove home through the city lights, thinking about the family I'd lost and the one I'd built. About the price of truth and the cost of silence. About the woman who'd once believed that love meant paying any price, and the woman who now knew that love means never asking someone to. In my apartment, Luna waited by the door, her purr immediate and unconditional. I poured us both a treat, premium cat food for her, herbal tea for me, and settled by the window overlooking the park. My phone buzzed one last time. Chloe, girls made honor roll. They asked if you'd come to dinner this weekend. They want to make your lasagna recipe. I smiled, my fingers hovering over the screen. Wouldn't miss it. Tell them I'll bring the good cheese. Because that's what family does. They celebrate achievements. They share recipes. They show up for dinner without demanding you mortgage your future to pay for their past mistakes. The family I was born into taught me that love was a debt I could never repay. The family I chose teaches me that love is a gift that expects nothing in return. And the woman I am now knows the difference. I archive Victoria's final letter unopened. I delete Dylan's voicemails without listening. I wake up each morning in a life I built, not one I was extorted into maintaining. The recording that went to 5 judges didn't just save me from paying for my brother's divorce. It saved me from a lifetime of paying for the crime of being successful while related to people who saw my success as their entitlement. The scar on my cheek has faded. The recordings are sealed in evidence lockers. The foundation thrives. But the most important thing, the lesson that echoes in every call we answer, every survivor we help, every no we empower, is this: family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're bleeding. And I'm done bleeding for anyone who doesn't show up for me.